What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of the Z&R Chitchat. Now, you're probably wondering who's Z and who's R. I'm Z, my name is Zach, and joining me today is R.
River. Like the water.
River. And you know what? That's not even a joke. His real name is River. And he also has siblings named Blake and Forrest and Crick.
Yeah, let's go with that. Zach, what are we talking about today?
Well, today, so what we're going to be doing here on the Z&R Chit Chat is we're going to be doing some type of debate every time. We're going to start off going maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, depending on our schedules and how much money we get. And then from there, we're going to try to go to maybe once a week once we get into it, once the fan base gets bigger, stuff like that. So, as I said, we're going to do debates every time we do it. And the very first episode, we decided to do something really big. It's going to be Harry Potter versus Game of Thrones. And you're probably asking, well, why? Why did you choose those two topics?
How was it?
Because we were arguing about it the other day.
Well, that. So, the biggest reasons we chose them is they both are both well known. They both are in a fantasy setting. And there's just a lot of things to cover with them. Now, a more like comparison would have been Lord of the Rings versus Game of Thrones. But you know what? Who cares about Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Except for Gandalf. Gandalf's the best. I don't care what anyone says. So what we have a list of topics we are going to cover. And obviously it's going to be a debate. I'm going to say some cool things about, if you can't tell, Harry Potter alumni. I actually did go to Hogwarts.
I didn't take the clue earlier.
I was a foreign exchange student at Hogwarts. I didn't know if you knew that. I actually graduated maybe 20 years after Harry Potter. Well, Harry Potter technically didn't graduate, but that was 20 years after he was there.
He didn't graduate?
No, he didn't graduate. You will be hearing a random airy voice in the background. That is Ghost. Ghost is our fact checker and happens to be my fiance. So I'm marrying a ghost, I guess, which is totally capable in the Harry Potter world, apparently. And then River is going to be talking about
Game of Thrones
and how much it sucks. No, I thought we said it sucked.
No, we didn't say anything.
Well, that's what you guys are going to decide. We're going to present the information. You guys decide on who was right, Harry Potter, and who was wrong. And, if you have any more suggestions for future debates, please leave them down in the comments below. But we'll cover that all at the end. That's when all YouTubers do it. So, couple warnings. First off, there will be some explicit language because there's no logical scenario where me or River can go however long this lasts without saying some type of cuss word. So, if just pre-warning, we'll try to keep it PG-13. Try.
Jules, tobacco. This one has an R on it.
I don't really think that was a necessary thing, but okay. So we'll try to keep it PG-13. We'll try to limit the amount of language that we say. No promises, though. And also, we are going to be drinking... Yes, Ghost?
I think if you filmed it on your phone, it would look better.
I think it looks fun. But anyways, so the first topic is world building.
I wasn't done because we had to make the alcohol disclaimer. We will
I
also...
just said that.
Huh? I was about to.
Oh, explicitly.
We are going to be drinking on the show, and you have to be 21 and older to drink. We are both legal of age. If you want River's address and all that, that's fine. Just let me know and send me a message. Let me know, and I'll get it to you.
No.
Okay, so we have a list of topics we are going to go over, and I'm going to say some things about it. and then he's going to say some things about his stupid show. And then we're going to go through all of them. And like I said earlier, you guys decide the winner. Very first topic we're going to be discussing is world building. I'll let you go first on this one since this is our very first episode and you're going to lose.
Eek. Well, the world is definitely fantasy masterpiece, really, and I'm real big into like Lord of the Rings, like you suggested earlier, but I guess Harry Potter is good enough to debate against. Medieval swords, killing, nudity. It's definitely not on the same level, for sure. I suck at this.
Well, see, here's the difference, though. Game of Thrones might have nudity set in a medieval time frame, all that, but Harry Potter, the world itself, the universe is vast. It is huge. There are different websites talking about different wizarding schools in different countries.
But yours is based more like 20s era. Like Game of Thrones is based like possibly like 80 like Roman
Harry Potter's
times.
based in the 20s?
No, Harry Potter's not based in the 20s.
Well, with the vehicles and shit.
Harry Potter was based in the 80s and 90s. Like the actual storyline was 80s and 90s.
But the cars.
It's an 80s car in Great Britain. Now,
British,
but that goes to my point though. It's such an expansive world. It has history beyond the 80s, 70s, the 20s. The Fantastic Beasts series that takes place in the 20s and 30s, and even before that, we know about the founders of Hogwarts: Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw. That was before in the medieval times, if not sooner than that. Merlin is a factual person in Harry Potter. He has his own chocolate frog card. So the entire Harry Potter universe expands. J.K. the author has done an amazing job expanding. Japan has their own wizarding school. France has their wizarding school. Africa, all these places, even America. She has come out with a complete story on the Ilvermorny American Wizarding School. So she has a whole backstory for all of that. So, and I mentioned Fantastic Beasts earlier. That is in the same timeline, the same universe as the Harry Potter series itself. Now, I'm not going to, in your defense, I am not going to go into the Fantastic Beasts stuff because I specifically said Harry Potter. But for world building purposes, all those movies that are happening right now, those are in the same universe. So what does Game of Thrones have on that, sucker?
Alright. Well, Harry Potter is definitely based modern day, per se. It's based as if wizards were among us all along, pretty much. Game of Thrones is in the past. It's like how I imagine it. It's just like how the government was ran back then. It was brutal. Like there's shit that's probably not even in the textbooks, nowhere even written, that happened that was detrimental to like the timeline. And I understand that Game of Thrones is fantasy, like it's not that, but it just could be based. It's more based in the past. And I feel like the government, like how the world was ran and how different parts of the world were ran differently in that said universe of Game of Thrones, it's honestly beautiful in my opinion, for sure. It's like how the world came to be in a way, like things can be unwritten and rewritten into history. And we would never know.
I mean, I will choose you on that. There are back in the back end, let's take our medieval times, just like in normal society. You know, it was very brutal and it was very, chauvinistic.
Right.
Right. Precursor, I guess I should have said this earlier. I have never seen Game of Thrones. I'm one of the 1% has never seen Game of Thrones.
Me neither.
I've seen Harry Potter, and it is really good.
Neither has Ghost.
Disclaimers.
So, I'm acting as the expert for Harry Potter. He's acting as the expert for Game of Thrones.
And I'm really not.
I do agree with you. That's not something you should say.
I've watched the series.
I
haven't read the books, but I know of lore from the books, and I just respect Game of Thrones to not claim myself as any kind of expert on it, and I probably could be and would be wrong at any point. But from what I've read and heard of said story is what I would like to represent in the case of its story being better than Harry Potter's story. That's what this is about.
What it's about.
In my head. River's World. Old Man River. Call out. Anyways, what's next?
Character development. Since you went first on world building.
You went first. I tried to go first, messed up. You took over, probably gonna get edited, and then I came in and kind of debutted your aspect of how vast Harry Potter is.
You debutted, not rebutted.
I thought I debutted. Well, I could have rebutted. I wasn't really going in your interest at any point. I'm just saying how much more real Game of Thrones would feel compared to Harry Potter. Okay. And the world aspect. Probably a moon on Jupiter or something. You know what I'm saying? Anyways,
a moon
what's
on
next?
Jupiter.
We're all feeling the blues.
You know, I am kind of feeling a little blue because we don't have orange slices. We are drinking Blue Moon. If you can't read, if I can get it right, we are drinking Blue Moon, and we also have some liquor off to the side. You want to grab that bottle so we can show them? We won't drink it yet. Keywords yet. We got a little Jameson action going on here too. So, at some point, we're going to be maybe doing a little bit of shooters here. But, you know what? We're adults. We have that right to decide, right?
Right. 21 years old.
29.
In the Midwest.
And...
I just want to squeeze right past you and get back to the topic. Next is character development. You went first last time because you kind of took over my slander. Character development in Game of Thrones it's honestly it had me on the edge of my seat from the start to the finish. I still wanted to see everything that happened at the ending of said series on HBO. But like how you see the characters that we all know and love, such as Jon Snow, Arya Stark, Sansa Stark,
Winter's
I guess, Tyrion Lannister, and so on, Jaime Lannister, and the character development of even Cersei Lannister, like the character development throughout the series, like they all grow. They grow throughout the series. They like a lot of characters development. Like develop and the development of said characters, and even the ones that have like started like you didn't like them and then you liked them and then you didn't like them again. Like it's so much more deeper than what Harry Potter ever gets, and I'm biased on everything because I've seen the series of Harry Potter, haven't read the books.
But sidebar, we've been to Harry Potter trivia nights, and he just kind of sat there. We got third place, But
a lot of it had to do with the books, which I haven't read. It had not much to do with the movies.
Our team name was Every Day Was Dumbling. By the way,
Every day we're dumbling.
Every day we're dumbling. So sorry, go ahead.
Anyways, yeah. Like, say, just I want to definitely mention, like, two characters specifically, like, throughout the series would be Arya Stark and Jaime Lannister. Like, Arya Stark, like, we see her as a child, pretty much. You know, like, she's maybe, like, I'm probably wrong, but, like, you know, she seems 8 to 10. And she's, like, growing up with her father dying, like, right in front of her eyes. She sees that happen. And then, like, after that, she just becomes, like, this, like, badass assassin chick. And she's so, like, her development from, like, a child to, like, a very, very, like one of the main characters throughout the series is just, it's, like, you always want to go back to her and see, like, where she's at, pretty much, throughout how the series goes. And, like, even how it ends with her, like, it's very, like, fulfilling to see that come to a conclusion. On opposing would be Jaime Lannister. Jaime Lannister, in my opinion, started out as an incestuous douchebag, but he does go through a turning point where you start to like him, and a lot of my friends liked him. Like, some of them said that he was their favorite character, and I do agree on the aspect of his development, because you didn't like him at first. He has something happen. He has his spoilers. He has his hand cut off, his sword hand. So it's very, you know, it's like, you know, having your dick cut off, your balls cut off. Like, it's very demanding, and, like, he goes through that, and then, like, he becomes kind of like a slob, like, he's kind of pathetic, and then, like, he develops from there. So, like, another good point would be Theon Greyjoy. He is, like, his character development ends better than Jaime Lannister's. Continuing on with him, he becomes more heroic, and we think that he's a good guy. And then he kind of does, like, a banging boot in the last season, and he goes back to, like, toxic crap that no one should ever have been dealing with throughout the series, and that's a very frustrating part throughout the series to me, is the Lannisters, and that they are pretty much the main, like, antagonist throughout the series, because he doesn't know. But, like, Theon Greyjoy starts out kind of a dick, loses his dick, kind of, like, earns it back, and then he ends with him fully coming around. It's a very beautiful art. He's definitely the median of the said three characters as of now of character development. Now, Zach, mention Harry Potter and Hermione and Ron.
No, that would be too easy. Going along with what you're saying about Arya Stark, you said we saw her grow up from a child, correct? We see not one, not two, not three, but multiple characters grow up from a child about 11 years old to 18, 19 years old. But then we know about them afterward. So I could talk about Harry, Ron, and Hermione and their character development, how Harry grew up in a household where he was abused. There's no doubt about it. He lived in a cupboard under the stairs and would get whacked on and stuff like that. I could talk about Hermione being a muggle, or a mudblood muggle, and how she had to face different scenarios because of racism. It's basically racism. And I could talk about Ron being looked down upon, not by his family, but other purebloods, because his whole family they grew up poor, and they would slum with like half-bloods and muggles. But I'm not going to talk about them because they have been talked about a lot. Who I will talk about is Neville Longbottom. Okay, so you want to talk about character development. Have you seen Matthew Lewis, the actor of Neville Longbottom? In the very first movie, he is a short, chubby kid. When by the time the 7th movie rolls along, he is tall, he is ripped, and he turns into a complete badass. And that is what Neville does in the books.
Hold on. I want to cut you off right there. We see multiple characters in Game of Thrones do what you said. Jon Snow started as a very minor character, and he turns out to be the biggest. So, like, you can't go off of me not mentioning things that happen. A lot of characters develop throughout the series. I was just mentioning 2 very important
all right, no, I get
character arcs in the story. Because there's a lot of character arcs in both stories.
I'm getting that. I get that. But what I'm going to mention with Neville Longbottom, he started off, as I said, as this kid who had parents who were like great wizards. They were Frank and Alice Longbottom. They were Aurors, so they hunted dark wizards. They were tortured.
Wow.
They joined the First Order of the Phoenix to fight Voldemort.
So he was all plump.
No, he actually didn't grow up with his parents because they actually got captured and tortured.
Oh.
They got tortured so much that they forgot who he was.
Wow.
He would. This is not mentioned in the movies, but in the books, he actually goes and visits his parents every Christmas break, and they don't know who he is. So Neville was raised by his grandmother. So he had, from an early age, he had these high expectations. Oh, your parents were great wizards. You're going to be great too. Well, he didn't start off that way. He started off as clumsy. Doesn't know our ghost is asleep. He starts off clumsy, not talented in magic at all. But you could see, even from the very first book, he had courage because he stood up to Harry, Ron, and Hermione right before they went to go fight Voldemort the first time. But you can see the character development. He gets more confident every year. And when it comes to the 7th book, 7th movie, he's fighting Death Eaters. He's actually the one that
kills the snake.
He is the one that kills
the 7th Horcrux, right?
Technically, there are 8.
Yeah, so he kills the 7th.
He kills Nagini, who is the snake. And the way he got the sword, though, is he got it from the Sorting Hat, through the Sorting Hat, and it was stated in the 2nd book and 2nd movie that sword only appears to the Gryffindors who are proven, like true Gryffindors, so who are brave at heart. So that's why he was able to pull the sword out of the hat, and that's what he was able to help Harry defeat Voldemort. So that was one character I wanted to talk about specifically, because Neville Longbottom is probably one of the most underrated characters in his development, because everyone focuses on the Trinity, Harry, Ron, Hermione. Everyone talks about them because they're the main people. That's who it is. But Neville, well, I'll go into more details with
that turn at the end of that series is very, very fulfilling. Yes, I agree with that. But let's get a little bit more mature. And after, Madam Stark, her throat is slit at the Red Wedding. In the books, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. Go Reddit. She becomes I forget the name of her, but it's like she's dead, and she kills Freys, like in the swamps that come and visit her dead body. She kills them. It's very like in depth, and I know that Harry Potter has probably plenty of brutal ghost stories of the people in Hogwarts or whatever, but just the brutality that we see like throughout that series really does put it on a different level of what Harry Potter is. Like Harry Potter has its own fair share of racism, abuse and all that stuff, but it doesn't really ever, like J.K. Rowling, like she is a good author, and I know we're going to come to this later, but I feel like she doesn't get deep enough, like with how real world is, even though she's very, very much trying to create her, and has created her own universe.
Yeah, she actually, I looked this up the other day. She, as everyone probably knows, she started off really poor, right? She was probably like a waitress. She is worth $1 billion now.
We're going to cut this in like bless me. Don't get into her author. We need to get into 3 before we go into.
I am. I'm just making this point now. I'll talk about it later. But she is worth over $1 billion now because of the universe she has created, and a lot of that has to do because I think we can both agree, no matter whether it
cheers
is.
Cheers to J.R.R.
Cheers to richness and.
At least J.K.
We'll cheers to this though.
Kind of finished.
We'll cheers to this though. You can't get invested in a story unless you have good characters.
Right.
If you don't get invested in the characters and see how they develop, you're not going to get attached to it unless, of course, you like Rick and Morty, because Rick and Morty is awesome. So I'm gonna. You want to cheers to that? Characters? Need good characters?
Yeah, I guess in Rick and Morty, definitely cheers to Rick and Morty.
All right.
Season 4
coming out. So third point we got is villains and heroes. You want to lead off with this one? Or you want me to go?
You're gonna go because I went last time.
All right. So the thing I like about the Harry Potter universe is it has a singular villain. Voldemort. Now, you could go back to Fantastic Beasts and say Grindelwald. He is a dark wizard, too.
But even that one lady throughout the series, like
Bellatrix.
No. I actually kind of liked her, but I hated the lady I hated the most.
Oh, Dolores Umbridge. Yeah.
I hated her.
Yeah, there are secondary and tertiary antagonists, but the main guy who controlled everything was Voldemort. And going back into the world building, you learn about his history. His mother, and so this is important to my point. His mother fell in love with a Muggle. So for start off, Voldemort's half. He's a half-blood. Okay.
What's his actual name?
Tom Riddle.
Tom Riddle.
His mother fell in love with a Muggle, a very handsome Muggle named Tom Riddle. So he's a junior. But his mom was ugly. Because she was from a pure-blood family, and there was a lot of incest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Actually, you can go...
That's funny. You
can actually go through and pinpoint all pure-blood families are related in some way or another.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
But it's here nor there. So she put a love potion... She slipped Tom Riddle, the Muggle, a love potion. So he would fall in love with her, clearly.
Right.
But J.K. Rowling has stated that if you conceive a child through a love potion, so they're not really in love with you, they lose all emotions in that regard. So Voldemort grew up basically like a sociopath. When he was in an orphanage, he would steal, he would torture. I'm going to say bully, because it's never been explicitly said what he did. But he would torture kids, and he would steal stuff. And when he got into Hogwarts, he was suave. He was likable. He was like a head. I'm pretty sure he was head boy at one point. He was at least a prefect. I know he was a prefect. He may have been a head boy as well, which is like the top hall monitor
of
Hogwarts,
of the houses, right?
Yeah, he was in charge of like all the houses essentially, and he was very well liked. He had he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He could charm his way into anything. It wasn't until he started creating Horcruxes that he was also very handsome. He got his father's looks. He started becoming more snake-like, more like, as we see in the movies, when he started creating the Horcruxes. And there's different theories about why that is.
Well, it's because he was tearing apart his soul, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's never been confirmed, so that's why I said theories.
Oh, okay.
But, so it's the rise of the singular character. He's like, I am the greatest person ever. Like, that's just how it is. Muggles are beneath me. Most wizards are beneath me. And basically, he's been compared to Hitler. He was modern day Hitler. Now, Grindelwald was Hitler as well, but in a different way. Mm-hmm. So I've heard it as Grindelwald was more like was more of a sociopath.
Did he influence Tom Riddle?
It's funny how you say that. I don't think they actually ever met when they were younger, but Grindelwald was big when Tom Riddle was either born or young.
Little, yeah.
But so Grindelwald was more of a sociopath. I mean, Johnny Depp. I'm going to the movies. Johnny Depp is very good. Does very well articulating, and it shows how Grindelwald, because J.K. Rowling wrote the movies too. Those Fantastic Beasts movies, she's our co-author in those, so it's all canon stuff. And you can see Grindelwald, smooth talker, oh, I don't want to kill these people, but I must. Voldemort was more of a psychopath. He was like, you know what? I'll try this way. If I don't get it, guess what? I'm going to kill you. That's just how it is.
Another good topic, by the way, would be actors, by the way, for the list.
But so I like that Harry Potter focuses on a singular character. That way, because I don't know much about Game of Thrones. I mean, he's the expert of this video, but I do know there are different clans, different people, families, and all that. I mean, you said the Lannisters were like the villains earlier.
Well, something I would like to mention is George R.R. Martin hasn't really finished what he has written, and that has to do with what we're going to really talk about later is the authors. And like a main point that I want to make even now would be throughout the books, from what I understand, I read this one piece about him, and it really kind of spoke to me with the reasoning why he hasn't finished the series and how the series on television on HBO actually went was the directors of the show at the end point of the books took over and made their own ending to it, with George R.R. Martin telling them this is how it's going to end. They took their creativity into it. And but anyways, the way that George R.R. Martin writes is it's kind of like he starts writing and it's a garden, and he takes care of said plants and he develops them, but along the way other plants come along. He plants this garden, so he needs to grow each little character that has to come into really, I guess, the main plot of song, what is it, the Dancing with Fires, or the song of whatever. But I'm sorry, I didn't read or anything in it, but I do.
Our fact checker's asleep.
Yeah.
She fell asleep. So
I'm sure you can hear that. But but I'm just saying, Zach, like, it's unfinished. Like, that's pretty much what I want to say. It's not finished like how complete Harry Potter feels, and sure, there's that speculation part of both, because from what we've already gotten from the books, like, the Great War before any of what happens on the TV show even happens, like with Rhaegar Targaryen, like that's Jon Snow, the main protagonist of the series, like on television, would be Jon Snow, and his dad fights Robert Baratheon, which is the king at the beginning of the series on television. Like, it's like the lore to Game of Thrones is so in depth. Like what happened before this, and and there's even before that war, and there's like it's just all about these wars and like all the politics and stuff that go around these battles. And you know that's how the world's ran. Like everything's ran by like men, and they're all about fighting and controlling, and you know like. It's just so much more real.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So would you still say the Lannisters were the villains of Game of Thrones?
There's probably two main antagonists throughout Game of Thrones on the show, and that would be the Night King, and the Lannisters.
Okay. Let me stop you here. So the point I was getting to. How much influence do these people have?
Very much. Because, like, say there's this huge continent, and there's multiple continents throughout Game of Thrones. There's Westeros and the Essos. Like, that's the main series, and that can be compared to the United States and, like, everything else in the world. And the shape wise, and and everything, in my own opinion, but it what did you just say?
Huh?
What did you just say?
I'm just talking about their influence because
the influence, yeah, like the Lannisters in the South, their role in the South, like all these other kingdoms, all these other names of people. Like, that's the most important part, and that's how it was ran in the medieval times. Like, everything was about your name. Sir this, Sir fucking... Everyone knows Alexander the Great, or fucking the dude who got this... What was it? Alexander the Great, and then there was the fake story of, like, Merlin and...
Arthur.
Arthur. My bad. And, like, it's just
Real
like that kind of... That kind of era of,
Well, here's the point I was trying to get across. The fear, the influence that Voldemort has over the entire Harry Potter series when he was alive.
Compared to either one of the people I'm trying to get across. I'm sorry that I suck at this. I lose my train of thought.
You're good. So
old man.
The fear that Voldemort has. So he gets defeated about 11 years before the main storyline, right? Because we know it's about Harry Potter when Harry was a baby.
I thought
after
started at 10.
It might have been 10 or 11.
10.
After
that's the math.
Even after he's defeated, people refuse to say his name. They still say he who must not be named. So the fear that he is still around, the fear that he has instilled in...
That has nothing compared to the Night King, man. Nothing.
Well, then let's take into the 8th Harry Potter book. Play. It's a play. I am not a fan of it, but Voldemort's influence still affects that because it's Voldemort's child who takes over, who's the villain in the Cursed Child. It's called the Cursed Child. She is a girl. She is Voldemort's child. He's still influencing the actions of the new universe. Not universe.
Generation.
New generation. His legacy is so immense. It's not... So, he was a great wizard. He was a bad wizard. He was a dark wizard. He was still a great wizard.
You're pretty much saying that Harry Potter takes place, like, its whole storyline takes place over, like, 3 generations. There's, like, kind of like the Dumbledore when he's younger, and then there's, like, the parents of the main protagonists throughout the series. Am I correct? Like, that's what you're making it sound like. Like, Voldemort
I'm saying
like, in between this era and this era.
No, I'm saying that Voldemort, his influence from the time he left Hogwarts to past when the Harry Potter series was.
That's what the Night King does. Like, even before, like, the show, and even what I mentioned earlier with Jon Snow's father and Robert Baratheon, like, that war, the Great War, like, before that was the First War. And that was between, like, the northern part of what I was saying earlier about the Lannisters having rule over its, the city that they live in, King's Landing, and like all the other surrounding, names of that universe, the names of the houses of the cities that are throughout the kingdom, and it's like, their rule is by, like, pretty much cunning and betrayal and all this bad, shit that happened. Like, they cutthroat their way to the power and money and, like, all that other stuff. That's what the Lannisters did. And on this other spectrum, this entire other spectrum is the North. And the North has, like, the First War and the Wildlings, like north of the Wall, and this wall that divides the entire kingdom from a whole other part of the world. And it's just incredible how in depth, like, George R.R. Martin did get with it, but he just hasn't finished it. So, like, we don't know for sure this is how detailed everything needs to be when it comes to the ending of each series. Like, when you're comparing those two things, Harry Potter does have a more feeling. This is definitely done right from the get-go. This is finished, even, like, not in the book world, because there's plenty of other shit that needs to go into detail, I'm sure, in the Harry Potter universe. Yeah. Because it's based on the entire existence of humanity. Game of Thrones is pretty much what you think fantasy the same way. And it's based on the whole spectrum of, like, the universe, but in the past. It's definitely in the past. Medieval at the earliest. And, like, what's just happening is it's, with the North. The North has, like, the very beginning that everybody, like, feared the most. Like, these people were created, like, I can go on and on. But what I'm just saying is, like, there's 2 different hemispheres to everything in this story that Game of Thrones has really created. There's definitely more hemispheres than that because of the character development. But, like, some of the main things that happen, like, it's really amazing.
Well, we're gonna get to the next topic, but I just want to say, as my last point, I like the fact that Voldemort single-handedly influenced multiple generations compared to, as you were saying, the Jon Snow's father and so it's not just Voldemort's singular. Voldemort's more singular.
I'm just saying the Night King was around in the beginning, and they had this war before anything else happened. And then he went dormant because he lost, and then everyone fucking forgot about him. And he was just like a folk tale that they told their children. And then kind of like what Voldemort is. But then the Night King, it's just hard to defend it because how it ended, it just didn't give him the respect. The last season of Game of Thrones is like Dexter, and that's my opinion. But it's nice to see, like, on screen finished. That's fulfilling but at the same time, like I liked it enough, but it just didn't give enough detail to what it deserves.
So moving on. Next point we got is the best / saddest moments of each series. Go ahead and start. What is your best? It really
I think you need to start, dude.
All right, so I'm just gonna say one of the best, my personal opinion, best moments, and one of my saddest moments of the series, and kind of talk about why. So this one is actually not talked about a lot. It actually might not even be on anyone's radar. But for me, the saddest moment, one of the saddest moments of the series, is when Hedwig dies in the beginning of the 7th book / movie. Hear me out. Hear me out. Yeah, Dobby dying is really sad. We met Dobby in the 2nd book, and he would make appearances throughout the story, right? That's really sad. Fred Weasley dying, that's really sad. Lupin dying, there are a lot people, some major characters died. Okay. Hedwig. The owl. You don't think much. It's just an owl, right? Hedwig had been there since almost since Harry found out he was a wizard. She was Harry's first friend in the wizarding world after Hagrid. Hedwig was one of the most loyal characters. She died protecting Harry from Voldemort. When Voldemort figured out, because in the 7th movie, it's true in the books, they gave a bunch of people Polyjuice Potion, right? And they all split up different ways. Voldemort figured out which one was real Harry because Hedwig was with him. Hedwig was flying right by him. And she actually tried to attack Voldemort. And so, he kills her, boom, she dies. But that made me so upset because she was one of his... We've known her since book 1. We have known her since the very, very beginning of his wizarding experience. And, I could talk about Dobby dying. I could talk about Fred dying. But to me, and I'm also kind of a little sentimental because, you lose your first pet. That's a really emotional time, right? And this was not only Harry's first pet, but one of his very first friends. So to me, that's one of the saddest moments. The best moment in the Harry Potter story would have to be... There's so many. I'm going to go to the Chamber of Secrets. Harry figures out what the chamber is, and he actually defeats the basilisk. That's probably one of the best moments because Harry at this point is only 12 years old.
Didn't he do the chess game during that?
That's the first one.
That's what you're talking about, right?
The second one.
Oh, fuck.
Sorcerer's Stone's where Ron does chess game. In the Chamber of Secrets, Harry actually fights this giant snake that can kill you if you look at it. And at 12 years old, I barely knew what I was doing at 12. Let's be honest. Did you know what you were doing at 12? Do you have any idea what you were doing?
Riding a bike.
Yeah. Riding a bike, trying to talk to girls in middle school. But Harry was sitting there. He defeated one of the most powerful creatures in the Harry Potter universe. This thing can kill you just by looking at you. It would have killed a ghost. But the ghost was already dead. That's why Nearly Headless Nick. Read the books if you haven't. But so to me, that's the best moment and saddest moment of the Harry Potter world. The biggest twist of the Harry Potter world is Snape. Severus Snape is one of... I could have talked about him in character development. I didn't. And I apologize because I'm not going to do him justice here. But Snape was a double agent. Snape
It was insane. That was really good.
When Snape killed Dumbledore, on Dumbledore's orders, but not letting anyone know, was one of the biggest twists in cinematic written history I could possibly think of. And I'm a big fan of Dan Brown. If you haven't read any Dan Brown books, The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, you need to read them. But the way J.K. Rowling hid, so in the books and the movies, he seems like a jackass. Snape's a jackass. There's no doubt about it. But then after you start learning more about him, learn more, he loved Harry's mother. That's why he despised Harry, because he looked like his father, who stole Lily. But he still gave his life to protect this son of the girl that he loved. And it culminated with him killing Dumbledore. Like, I don't know how you could beat that. Could you kill someone because they ordered you to do it? But you had to keep it a secret. You couldn't tell anybody. It's hard. It would be hard. It really would. Especially because the kid whose mother that you love now hates you because he physically saw you do it. And his mentor.
It was a very, watching the series, just watching. Like I said, I haven't read the books. Except the first one. I did read the first one. That Snape thing, that was a huge twist. I did not expect it at all until the last movie. I was like, holy crap. But, anyways, best moment and saddest moment from what I can recollect from Game of Thrones would be... there's so many of both, everything that... saddest would probably be there's Tyrion getting his heart broken. There's Dany losing Khal Drogo. There's Rob dying and his mom. That's honestly, it would be the Red Wedding. That was really the most heartbreaking to me. Would be that. And just seeing everybody brutalized, Rob's newly you loved Rob. Everybody loved Rob. He was avenging his father, who was very sadistically killed because of what was going on in King's Landing. All the betrayals and the lies and all this deceit. It's just the whole time you watch Ned before he died, it's really it's just brutal, and that's what I would imagine the world being back then. Just so black and white and just disgusting. And that's the surrealism of the world, and that's what I like. What I like personally is just being real, and just how it all feels with Ned being just destroyed in these politics, and then seeing somebody who's trying to be righteous and uprise against this, and come with this treaty with something that's needed to gain the complete and total advantage in a war, and then just be totally betrayed by money. And just seeing this guy that we loved, and his mother and his wife, his to-be mother wife, just stabbed in the stomach, just destroyed. It was literally, the Red Wedding was literally the saddest moment I think I could ever imagine, because of how brutal.
I got two things to say. I've never seen Game of Thrones. One's a question, one's a comment. First off, my question is, how different...
Spoilers.
I think we're past the spoiler part. How much different is, or how much influence would you say the Red Wedding took from actual historical value? So Julius Caesar most famously was stabbed by the entire Senate of the Roman Empire. Right. So how much influence would you say that
I'm sure it had a lot of influence. I mean, that's obvious. Like, that's why I love said series, like Achilles and like all the Greek mythology and the Roman mythology and like all that. Like, I'm in love with it. And Game of Thrones definitely gets you going on it. It has its like white god and this god and like what the monk dude did to King's Landing, how he took over an entire city by religion. Like, it's just amazing how they depict certain things in historic, like, that have happened historically. And I'm sure, does Harry Potter do that in any way?
Harry Potter doesn't have to,
because it's its own story.
Because it's so fantastical. So the comment I had,
at least it has a realistic comparison.
Yeah. The comment that I had is I'm a big fan of anime and manga and stuff like that. There was actually a recent arc in one of my favorite mangas. Anime is called One Piece. It's actually the most popular manga in the world. Besides the point.
Because it's still going, correct?
It's still going. It's been over 20 years.
Yeah, it's huge.
Because he doesn't know when to stop. But we love it, so it's okay.
Eventually he does need to stop. He's getting close to the end now.
He is getting close to the end.
He
is getting close to the end. They're actually getting derailed. Anyway, yeah, cheers. Cheers to over 20 years.
Cheers to One Piece.
Anyway, in the arc, 2 arcs before the one we're currently in right now in the manga, they had a here, I'll pause.
Wifey call. Hello? What, babe? He was talking.
So, anyway, the 2 arcs before.
I haven't done twists. I do know that.
I know. Well, we'll get to it. But I just wanted to make this comment because you said the Red Wedding. 2 arcs before the one we're in now, they had like a red wedding type thing. So like it was basically these 2 families are marrying their children to form an alliance.
Yeah, right.
And the villain of one family, the matriarch, was like, "Oh, we're gonna kill this kid. We're gonna kill all of you, so I get your technology," because they were technologically advanced. We're like, "I'm gonna kill you, get your technology, and whatever." So I will say, I'll cheers to this. Game of Thrones has a big effect on different countries, like fucking writing. So
like historical events throughout the history of the world.
Well, it hasn't been officially said, but like the author of One Piece, Ichiro Oda, has said he's a big fan of Game of Thrones. So he hasn't specifically said this scene was based off the Red Wedding, but from what I have gathered,
you're getting into that instead of Harry Potter.
No, I was just making a comment. But
so you're saying that One Piece has a Red Wedding aspect to
yes.
it? Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. He's not saying Harry Potter defending his case. He's talking about
I'm helping his case.
The said cheers earlier to One Piece. And we're cheersing to him having a deep psychological effect of killing off loved characters in a scene that is brutal, to say the least.
All right, so what is
now a big twist? Whew. Game of Thrones. It's definitely known for its twist, man. Like with Littlefinger,
I will give you
betraying everybody in the politic world. And
I will give you extra points if you can give me a twist on the same level as the
With
Red
Snape?
Wedding.
As the same level as Snape?
As the Red Wedding.
As the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
How I described it? I mean,
Yeah,
Littlefinger
I'm talking about
betraying freaking Ned and killing Ned. And Ramsay, like, a really big twist is Theon Greyjoy betrayed Robb Stark to get him killed in the Red Wedding. Theon Greyjoy tries to join the Greyjoys in his name because he's kind of like his background is he is a slave of war, a POW, to cause peace between Starks and Greyjoys because Greyjoys don't really like the Starks. So pretty much Theon is a prisoner of war, so he grew up as a prisoner, as a helper of Ned Stark, and he's pretty much the same age as Robb Stark, which they're best friends. Eventually, Theon betrays Robb in the deal with the Lannisters and the decoy and fucking Theon doing this. But Ramsay Bolton catches him and pretty much makes it known that he betrayed his best friend and he's a piece of shit and he deserves his dick cut off. And he cuts off his dick. And just blatantly screws with him from there. Belittles this man to the point that he's a worm. He's worm. He's a nothing. He's a nothing. And then like, you think, like, his sister tries to save him. And she fails because he's freshly wounded. He's freshly just belittled to nothing. And then eventually, like, after seeing his sister try and fail because of him, making him feel worse, he finally comes through and kind of saves Sansa Stark from Ramsay Bolton. From her, another child that we grew up with. Or not grew up with, but, you know, kind of moved along in the story with. Sansa Stark, she's young, she's stupid, hater. She's my least favorite good character is Sansa Stark. But she is, like, you do feel bad for her after all this stupid crap that she does, because in my opinion, she is pretty much the reason Ned dies. And, like, all of this starts is because of Sansa and, like, her age, and that sucks. It's not sexist in any way, but it just sucks how she was fragile, and that was taken advantage of. And it's sad to see. And she was raped by Ramsay, and then Theon saves her from that, and then he goes to try to save his sister, fails, and you're like, damn it. And then at the very end, before he dies, he does come around, and he does die of bravely. He does die a warrior's death. And it is fulfilling to kind of see him come around. And that's a big twist in, like, character development that I like to mention. But throughout the series of Game of Thrones, there's so many twists and turns, and, like, how the politics works on all sides of the world, and, like, what led to this and what led to that. It's just, it's so in depth, and it's so I don't know. It does put realism on how you would think shit ran, you know.
All right. So, next point. What do you think of the authors? What do you think of the creativity of George R.R. Martin, if I want to give it a flavorful accent? George R.R. Martin.
Well, to start, I definitely think that J.K. Rowling is kind of weird with what she Twitters or tweets, or I'm not big on the Twitter,
on the Twitter.
I mean, by sure follow him or follow the show, but I'm not a big tweeter. But from what I've seen, she's getting a little out there with what she's been doing. But a negative thing I do want to say about G.R.R. Martin is I wish he would just follow through. Like, Stephen King, like, is a great author, and he's finished a lot of stories, and a lot of people make fun of him because he has a lot of stories, but they are all well written. Whatever he writes, they're finished, they're complete. He doesn't write miniseries, but he's real good at that. George R. R. Martin's really good, like I was saying earlier about that garden aspect. He is very good at blooming his fucking garden. Like, the stories that he has written and, like, all these other stories that are around what he is focused on throughout the series, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, it's majestic, it's sadistic, it's murderous, it's heartbreaking, loving, tear-jerking. It's beautiful. But he just hasn't finished. It's not over yet. He hasn't finished what he has started. And it makes me mad because... I'm sorry, man. You're old. you're. I
hope he never watches
You need
this.
to finish. Yeah, right. You won't. But
Yeah, you won't.
the thing is like, you need to finish it. It's like, it's not a forever thing. You know, you will live on, but you need to go with it. You need to get going. Shut up. I know what you're gonna say.
Okay.
But that's a big negative point, and positive. You know, I'm probably not giving him his due respects of what he is trying to accomplish, because his inspiration is the author of Lord of the Rings.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Tolkien. Cheers, Tolkien.
Cheers to Tolkien.
I put a Jewel Pod in my fucking beer.
So I'm gonna talk about J.K. Rowling. I'm gonna say a brief story. When I was
how gay everyone is.
When I was a freshman in college, I was in a English class, and they went around the room and asked us who our favorite authors were and why. And it got to me, and I said, "Oh, I got two. First one's Dan Brown, like I mentioned earlier, fantastic author. Read his stuff if you haven't yet." And the other one I said was J.K. Rowling. The reason why, J.K. Rowling is geared toward, like, young adults. It's not. I would say that's not a secret. It's more
6th graders is what it's geared towards.
But
my friend.
I've loved the fact that the way that she describes her world, the way that she expands on it. So the series is over, but she's still expanding on the world itself. She is involved. She is interactive with the world. She evolves the entire world. That to me shows that she cares, and her writing style itself it's beautiful. She will spend there are so many things, and we'll talk about this later. There are so many things that were not mentioned in the movies that are in the books. So you were at the Harry Potter trivia. The question about the Bo Batten's school. What did they ask? True or false? Bo Batten's is an all-girls school. Remember? The answer was false, because it actually, in the movies, they make it an all-girls school.
Huh.
And the books is both a men's and women's school. And there's a character that's never mentioned in the movies at all, named Peeves. He's a poltergeist who likes to play pranks on people. And he was a big reason in the books why Harry and Ron would get caught sneaking around after hours and stuff like that. So there's just so much that she puts into her writing. She went from, I mentioned it earlier, she is worth over $1 billion now because of her Harry Potter universe. So, whatever she's doing well, and she's doing right. but just the style of writing that she does, I am a personal fan of that. So that's all I wanted to say about J.K. Rowling. But you mentioned her tweeting. You know, she's very outspoken, and I mean everyone's outspoken. I mean, I won't say what I was going to say because that was against the president. But she will, even on her Twitter, she will say, "Oh, this is actually what happened in this story or in the universe." She has tweeted out to her fans who asked her questions, and she has responded on Twitter, and she has responded on different websites, which we're going to get to in a second. She has responded to different websites, and has written stories on these websites. So you did say J.R.R. Martin is not done, and that's true.
But
or G.R. George.
Like something that I want to take to that garden aspect of his writing is his garden's overgrown. He hasn't finished all these stories that need to be completed, and some have finished. Like, don't get me wrong, some are completed. Like, just seeing Theon coming around, like, and Jamie coming around and then going back, like that's a very, very detrimental point. Like, throughout the character development of Jamie Lannister is the fact that he comes around and then doesn't. It's really groundbreaking in my book, especially. But with George R. R. Martin, like, I don't want to call him lazy, but he does need to get going. I'll mention that again.
So I think it would be safe to say
I'm not giving it justice.
So we'll probably cheers to this, but I think it's safe to say that both authors are good at what they do. Right?
Right.
Can we cheers to that?
We can cheers to that. But I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's just a lot of things from the final season of Game of Thrones just throw you off.
Next point, second to last point we have is fan base. Did you start the author? You started the authors.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the fan base. So
you started the authors. I'm starting this. Fan base, I already know Game of Thrones, like, even though it is the most viewed show on television, or was, it is not comparable to Harry Potter because its fan base, I will always respect it, and I have a dark story that I'm not going to get into now in my personal life, but I will always respect the Harry Potter fan base entirely, knowing that it's bigger than even the Fallout Boy fan base, and Fallout Boy fan base is fucking huge. I'm not a huge fan of Fallout Boy, but I do know that their fan base is huge. But, like, it's really not comparable. But HBO has broken records with Game of Thrones of most viewed show on television. I'm pretty sure I can confirm that.
And for Harry Potter, in regards to in regards to the fan base, you know, it is geared toward young adults. But I mean, as stated earlier, I'm 29 years old. I grew up in high school and middle school with Harry Potter. The first Harry Potter book was written in 1997. It was published in 1997. So
I think Game of Thrones was published before that. The Song of Fire and Ice.
It may have been.
I might be wrong.
Our fact checker fell asleep. But even taking that, the stories stick with the people and they grow up with it. So as I said, I'm 29. I'm still growing with Harry Potter because J.K. Rowling is still producing stuff, still saying, oh, this is what's happening now. Oh, this is what's happening now. Oh, you want Fantastic Beasts? This is what's happening right here. And so it's for all ages. It's not just for young adults. It's not just for grown adults. It's not just for kids. It's not just for old people. It's for everybody. And that's something as a fan, I appreciate. It's like, hey, I'm going to include everybody. Whereas Game of Thrones, correct me if I'm wrong, is for more mature audience.
Yeah, people that aren't scared of nudity and brutalness, like I prefer. I do prefer real over total fantasy happy ending type things. I've come to always think that I've always kind of rooted for the villain in like a small way in the back of my head. It's like even comic books and TV shows, like I do like seeing, and really it probably started with, Ninja Turtles and Transformers, and like maybe even a little bit of Dragon Ball Z, is just seeing like these villains develop in their own little sadistic ways throughout the series and them fighting. Like it's cool to see the villains, and it's not always cool to see them win. In Game of Thrones is definitely it's very bittersweet when it comes to villains winning. They do happen to win a lot throughout the series, and I mean it comes to an end kind of a positive aspect that you don't think of as well, which is another big twist, is fucking this one character that we see as a very young child that loves to climb, Bran Stark, B-R-A-N, Bran Stark.
Brando.
He starts as a very young character throughout the series that loves to be adventurous and outgoing, climb, and all this other stuff. He's then pushed out the window by another character, Jaime Lannister, and he breaks his back. He can't walk anymore. And from that, he becomes a kind of a magical being that brings Game of Thrones in a little bit comparable to what Harry Potter is with its fantasy kind of world of wizardry and crafts or whatever the fuck. Would be like the warg stage that Bran takes, and the Night King, and like the northern mythological of the northern throughout the series. And like Bran becomes the three-eyed raven. He can warg into anything. He knows the history of Westeros. He knows everything, and that makes him this major character. But Season 8 doesn't give him justice, and this is why I keep mentioning that George R.R. Martin hasn't finished his books, because he does, like, we don't know justice of what the Night King actually is, and all this other factors that Season 8 didn't give to the masterpiece of what that Song of Fire and Ice is. And that's the part that makes this hard to debate, because we have such a finished, even offspring series of the Harry Potter world, compared to Game of Thrones, where a lot of it's speculation that has been touched on but not totally taken care of. And that's a big debate in part that I'm inevitably gonna have speech impediments.
How many moons of blue have you had, my friend?
I don't know. I haven't really counted them. There's 4 over here.
Told you, 21 and over. That's what we're all about. We're all about following the law. Right? As he drank a Jewel Pod. Great.
Yeah, I think I'm going to die.
Well, I hope not, because depending on you guys, we might be around for a while. We'll see. Last topic is cons. Every series has cons. Did you want to start this one? Or who started? I don't even. At this point,
go ahead and start.
I don't even think it matters at this point. What? So the biggest con that I have with the Harry Potter series is So in the books, there is so much information. It cannot all translate to the movies. You're reading the books. You're sitting there, you see this character named Peeves, who is like a poltergeist. And you see this, and you see this, and you see this.
Yeah, I've
And
heard that Harry Potter has the whole syndrome of just being the core of what it all is.
It really is. It really is. And even in the movies,
Cinematically wise. Sorry.
even in the movies, it doesn't really do it justice. I mean, if they had waited maybe even 5 years to do the first Harry Potter movie, it may have been better. We don't know. But the fact that the movies are still, what, 2 hours long? 2 to 3 hours long, something like that.
With the last ones.
And it doesn't even include a quarter. I'll say it includes half. It doesn't include even a quarter of what's in the book. You know, like I said earlier, Peeves is a big character. So in the scene in the, I believe it's the 6th book, or 6th movie, where Fred and George Weasley, like, set off that firework dragon that chases around Umbridge. It's the 5th movie. It's during the owl exams, and this dragon starts chasing around Umbridge and stuff. In the book, they look at Peeves and go, "Peeves, you're in charge of causing mischief." And Peeves, "Yes, sir." In the first book, they have the nearly headless Nick, the ghost of the Gryffindor house, has a Death Day party, which, I mean, it's not integral to the story, but it gives a little more information into what's going on. So he serves like rotten food or something like that. Here's a big one. In the first movie, after the chess game, there is another room that Harry and Hermione go to, and it's a potions challenge. And basically, what happens is the riddle is read. One of these potions lets you go through. One of these potions lets you go back. In the movie, Hermione stays with Ron because he got his ass kicked by a queen because he was on the chess piece right around.
Oh.
In the book, Harry and Hermione go through into the next room. It's this potions room. It's like fire circle, and there's like 3 potions to drink or 2 potions to drink. One of them goes forward, one of them goes backwards. So Hermione goes, "Harry, you drink this one. This one goes forward. I'll drink this one. And I'll go help Ron." So that's not even in the movies. So that's a con I have with the Harry Potter series, is the movies don't do the books justice.
But that's the same thing with the series of Game of Thrones, though. It's the same way, and I can't give it justice because I haven't read the books. I'm sure there's so much more vastness to, like, how Game of Thrones is, and like all the other secret little cons that are going on throughout the series, because everything's so sly. Like, everything's so in depth, and like what I was saying earlier with how vast this garden is I can't represent how vast this is, and I've probably done a very bad job of defending Game of Thrones in its entirety, in the fact that I'm ignorant in a lot of ways. And that's the main part I want to press on with the pro of the whole thing, is how real it is. Like, it's a very real show, and it's just how the world is, and a lot of people will want what Harry Potter is, and in the end, good triumphs, even at a cost. I mean, Harry Potter has its downers. I do know. I mean, Harry's parents were killed in front of him as a child or a baby or whatever, but it's just so much more brutal in Game of Thrones, and I want to give it that as its con.
Right. So, you ready for the cheers and jeers?
Sure.
After every episode, after all we get done discussing, debating, chit-chatting, talking, whatever you want to call it, we are going to do a cheers and jeers. So, did we decide 1 or 2?
1.
1. I'm going to do 1 cheer and 1 jeer. So, I'm going to say something positive going on in the world, in life, whatever. And I'm going to say one thing negative going on in the world, in life, whatever. And River's going to do the same thing. So, we'll do the cheers first, right?
Sure.
You know what? Let's do a shot before we do this. At least I want to do a shot.
Yeah, please. I'm definitely out-drinking you in the beer aspect. That's for sure. You've had what?
That's number
3.
That's number 5.
5?
Because I had the one before we started recording, remember? I've had 3.
Same.
I've
So we're
had
all
3
caught
down
up.
here. How many do we have left?
Do you work tomorrow?
Nope. 5, 6, 7.
I don't.
I am going golfing tomorrow, so here's a little fun story. I've never been golfing in my life. I know, crazy. We're from Indiana. What's there to do in Indiana? Not much. I have never been golfing. I am about to go with my fiance's dad golfing for the very first time at the age of 29. It should be fun, right? You would think it would be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't the point of golfing is to get super trashed and drive a golf cart?
From what I've experienced the one time I'm not that white.
There is a I don't want to call it a store. There is a place you can go to in Indiana called Topgolf, and I'm pretty sure they're throughout the entire country. But Topgolf is it's a driving range, but it has heated bays. It has waiters and waitresses that wait on you. It is. You sure you don't want a shot?
Yeah, I'm positive.
It is one of the coolest things I have ever been to. Like, for real. It's a driving range, but like the heat, you can control the heat to blow on you while you're in the driving range. They have couches in your bay, and it is really cool. And I'm sitting there trying to drive, and what I would do, because I have difficulties locating the ball after I hit it, I would hit the ball.
Agreed.
And then I would look at the screen. Because the screen, if you landed in a certain area, it would tell you where you hit, where you landed, and tell you the distance. If you didn't land in this particular area, you have no idea. So I would just look, hit it, and pray. Like, how far did I get? Where did I get? So, I mean, that's my experience with golf. Should be fun.
I played on an actual golf course, and it was more difficult, and I didn't have that safety net that he had. And yeah, but I still had a good time. I think it's fun on an actual golf course.
Well, we'll see.
But pro in my life,
it's positive.
I saw a wedding this past weekend, and it was nice to go to. I haven't been in a wedding for a while.
You're in my wedding.
I
What the
know.
fuck?
I'm a groomsman, but I haven't been to one in a while, and I went with my fiance, and it was tear-jerking just to see,
So cheers.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to weddings and futures.
So my cheer. So here's a little
Hey,
back.
you did one.
Huh?
They already did one with the golf thing.
No, I was just telling a story.
Oh.
A cheer for me is we used to play soccer together in high school. I was a senior when he was a freshman. Anyway, so I'm really big into soccer. And there is a lot of soccer coming up this summer. We have the Gold Cup. We have let me get this out of the way. Got the Gold Cup. Got the Women's World Cup. Happens every 4 years. Ooh. We have currently going on the U20 Men's World Cup right now. So a lot of soccer happening, and I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that. So let's
cheers to soccer.
Cheers to soccer. So now got a jeers. So what's something negative?
Eek. A lot of things.
Other than your hair, you can't say your hair.
My big ass forehead. No. Like a big jeers right now in my life would definitely be like the fact that I was kind of demoted at work. And I don't know like where I would need to be going in life, like job world wise. And it kind of sucks being in that position where you're not happy and something kind of traumatic happened that's out of your control and has to do with other, I guess, people. And it kind of sucks to have your back stabbed, you know, in a way. Not that
like the
deep.
like the Red Wedding.
Anybody I know happened to watch this, it's not really that deep, but it does suck, and I'm trying to put on a better face than how it actually feels. So that's definitely a cheers.
Well,
fucking cheers. Drink to sadness.
we're not going to cheers that, but we will drink to that. I would say for me is the lack of education that we have in this world. When I was going to school, I was going to be a teacher. I had to withdraw for personal reasons, but that's a different story. But I truly feel that if you could educate everyone in the world, education is power. Knowledge is power. And it starts with the young. It starts when they're young. So if we could teach children how to act, how to behave, knowledge, learning, things like that, it would take time. It will take time. I'm not going to say that, but it will eventually show dividends. Because Betsy DeVos, all right, tangent. Betsy DeVos is not a good person, and as someone who is learning the education field, cutting billions of dollars for the education reform. She was cutting billions of dollars, and she was cutting funding to the Special Olympics. That's education's power, my friends. And if you don't believe that, then
that's a whole other topic.
That is a whole other topic. But to me, for a jeer, is education being put on the back burner. Let's put it that way.
That's a good one.
So, cheers. Drink.
Cheers to...
So, that was the Z&R Chitchat. If you liked what we had to say, please leave a like button. If you didn't like what we had to say, you're entitled to your opinion. But hit that dislike button.
We suck.
We would prefer you hit the like button. I mean, please subscribe to the Z&R Chitchat and leave any comments. Who won, by the way? Let us know who won. I mean, obviously Harry Potter won, but some of you Game of Thrones people might be like, "Oh, well, Game of Thrones is the best because we got to see."
Sorry, I didn't give enough justice, guys.
Maze Williams' butt.
I always suck.
We got to see Maze Williams' butt. She's kind of cute.
Who?
Arya? Isn't that Maze Williams?
Macy Williams?
Whatever.
Yeah. That should have been another topic. It's the actors in their lives.
Well, let us know what we should have covered. Let us know who won.
How bad I sucked.
Let River know how bad he sucked. Let me know how bad I sucked. For you Pottermore people, I tried the best I could. For you Game of Thrones people, he did the best he could. So, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Talk to you all later. Bye.